Hey, you Stygian Dogs. How's it going, everybody? This is going to be an experiment. This is the first live stream I've ever done. We have Dan from Conan Chronology. We got Jeff Shanks. He's in his car right now. He's going to get settled and he'll join us as well. And already, I mean, we got everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. We've got Headwop. We've got Lek. Good to see you, buddy. We got Willie. Who else we got? That's it. We got Jesse Church. Awesome. So it's nice to see everybody. Hopefully more people join us as we go. If there's any questions, put them in the comments. We got Jeff here, so that's going to be fantastic. How's everybody doing? Dan?
I'm doing great. I don't know. Been a chill day. I've been looking forward to this. This is my first time actually meeting either of you guys, not in emails or YouTube comments. So
yeah, it gets really strange, right? Like, and I'm sure the people in the comment section, you know, followers of all of the Conan YouTube stuff, you know, when you watch each other, there's this weird sense of familiarity. This kind of like you know each other, and then you know, even like I'm talking to you now, it's like you don't know me from Adam. And like I remember Lion and I did this, and even when we met in Texas, you know, there was at first it's like, who's the serial killer? Who isn't a serial killer? Like, you seem to know each other online, but everybody's good. I mean, Jeff, I had the benefit of knowing in advance of seeing him at Howard Days.
Yep. Yeah. Well, hey, everybody. It has been a kind of a crazy day for me. It's not been very chill, but it's okay. It's a little while, but on my way home here, and hopefully I'll be back here in time soon, and we'll hop on the camera. Just been a crazy day.
So I do want to just get right into Dan. Dan, of course, has the website ConanChronology.com. It was a great resource that I referred to before I met you, before I knew about you. I think our interaction was via Reddit, actually, on a few things. I think it was I think we had communicated on a few things. Definitely the Crawler and the Mist stuff. I know you had sent a couple things, and that really piqued my curiosity because you had pointed me. You had pointed me to this. This is Savage Sword of Conan number 40. And because I was into the Conan LP with all those stories, and I mean, Jeff will maybe talk about this later too. This is, of course, the 45 RPM record set for Crawler and the Myths. But you and I
remember my origin story.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like I'm a bit of an expert on this and the other comic book. Definitely. 116, because oh my god, I listened to those recordings probably 100 hours as I was transcribing things and comparing things and like writing down all the panel content. So that video was really intense. And so we had talked about that. We talked about the LPs, and you had done a little bit of research as well, and you found in Savage Sword of Conan number 40. And I'm going to do a video on this one day when I have time. It has just background information. There's a pretty good article. It's the Almost Forgotten Tales of Conan. And it goes through and gives writing credits to a few of those stories. I guess other things.
Reached out to like the record label
and
Neil Adams' estate. They didn't get back to me at all. I didn't figure they would. But if I remember right, I came across that by accident. Like I was just looking through, I forget which issue of Savage Sword that is, and then I was like, "Oh shit, this is the thing that Stygian Dogs was."
Yeah, no, totally. And so there's other updates. Like I want to do a video. The voice of Conan is definitely it's Dick Tuffield, and if you look for him on YouTube, you'll find. I mean, you'll know for sure it's his voice. And it was Jeff who had mentioned too that. It's like he's the voice talent that does the intro to Thundar the Barbarian. His voice is everywhere, so that's helpful. And then also when I had stopped, I don't know, probably. Well, I mean, we have Otto Houlihan, we have Bat Burke in the chat. Hey, Jeff, Caves of Cool Books is there too. Thanks for joining, everybody. I'll try to post things on the screen and. As we go along, this whole StreamYard interactive thing is kind of new, but I had taken a break with those daily comic book from the newspaper strips that I've been posting, because what we're getting now too in that collection is Ernie Chan's version of the Crawler of the Myths. So it's done in the daily newspaper strip as well. And the other 3 stories on that 4-story LP are also in those daily newspaper comic strips. So I want to do a video on that just to kind of round out the LP stuff.
So there's the LP version, the J.M. DeMatteis like full 4-color comic version, and the daily strip.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, and the daily strip, like it follows a little bit the DeMatteis as far as the start, but it kind of changes the reason why that Conan is in the desert. And I think it may also mirror, maybe I'm wrong. And actually the date is, I'll have to double check that now. But anyways, so that's part of the deep dive. But it is really neat. I would love to see, I don't know, a collection of all 3 of those published in a single volume, and just a little bit of research and some editorial, and I don't know, so sort of that information repeated as well. So anyways, you helped me a lot finding that. I appreciate that so much. And I actually picked this up at Howard Days last year. So that was such a cool find for me. And then we had communicated a little bit, and I know we had tried to meet before, and life gets in the way.
Right.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So tell us, though, about Conan Chronology. How did that come to be? I mean, it's such a great collection of essays. And as you talk, I'm going to try to pull it up on the screen if I can as well.
Well, I'm glad. I don't know. I'm glad it's helped people. I mostly did it as an excuse to write, like daily. My brother and I used to do a YouTube channel where we did like history and stuff, kind of an educational thing. And then like we were just kind of done with that. And I was looking for an excuse to write. And now you have a MIDI keyboard and a guitar behind you, so you might partake in music journalism. But stereogum.com is like probably my favorite music blog.
Okay.
And there's a guy on there named Tom Brehan who, like, I think his regular career is writing hip hop reviews or something like that. But he has this column called The Number Ones, where from like the beginning of the Billboard #1 chart in 1958 to today, he's just been reviewing every #1 Hot 100 single. And I'd read Conan stuff 10 years ago and had done it on and off. And I had kind of had an itch to read more of it. And I thought, this might be a great excuse to write. What if I just read Conan stories in chronological order and blog about it as I go? And then that kind of spiraled way out of control. I finished that initial project in like 4 months. And so since then, it's just been an excuse to write. And I don't write near as much chronologically based stuff these days.
Right.
But I don't know. I try to write essays, I guess. Like I really like essays as a format. And I really, really try to not just like blog. I try to like say something unique about it, you know?
As far as the website, and do you have any favorite articles that you've posted? Any favorite materials? I mean, we go back to July 2024. It looks like you're.
I mean, I'm cringing at the stuff that I wrote in like, the very first couple of days. I'm like, I didn't know anything here. I know I've really enjoyed this series I'm doing called Chronologically Speaking, the one there where I'm trying to like make it clear for anybody, like, why is this story placed in this way? I think that's been fun. I think I wrote a decent one about Shadows in Zambula back in the day. I've really enjoyed, I've been doing this, I guess you call it a series called Roy Thomas's Conan the Barbarian, where I'll like do kind of deep dives on different story arcs. Or I just did like a 3-parter on the whole Queen of the Black Coast saga, because, it's like 46 issues long or something like that. That's been really fun. I don't know.
So what was your introduction to Howard and Conan? Was it a Howard thing or was it a Conan thing first?
Oh man. I mean, it was definitely Conan was the first character. I can't remember if I discovered Savage Sword or Howard himself first.
Right.
Because I think like 2015 maybe, some random Reddit comment, someone had said like, you should check out Conan the Barbarian to someone else. And I Googled it and I thought, oh, that looks kind of cool. I think I discovered Savage Sword first, but the first like memory I have of it was my wife and I lived in Florida for like 2014, half of 2015. And then we moved back I'm from Denver, and we she didn't have her car, and so I was driving her to work every morning because I'm a teacher. I was on summer break, and I drove her to work. And I was like, I got nothing to do today. What should I do? And I just drove to a Barnes and Noble where I picked up the copy I still have of the Complete Chronicles of Conan, like the big fat black book. Yeah. And I remember thinking, for some reason, I had it in my. That's the one.
That's the starter.
Yeah, mine's just over there. But I remember I had it in my head that Queen of the Black Coast was the first Conan story, which it obviously isn't. But I was like, I'm just gonna chill out and sit down and read it, and it just like completely engrossed me. And I remember looking up at the end of the story like, oh my God, I read that whole thing in one sitting. And I was like in this empty, I'm sure it was a weekday morning, just in this empty Barnes and Noble. And the book was expensive, but I bought it there and eventually read. I didn't read the whole thing until a while back, but yeah, that's kind of my origin story, I guess.
That's awesome. Hey, John, how's it going? It's so great to see everybody here. It's a pretty amazing turnout. I mean, culturally, were you aware of Conan as far as like Schwarzenegger and all that?
Yeah, I had seen the 2 movies in high school. I used to have this friend named Crystal whose mom was really into like 80s media. And I remember her being like, Conan the Barbarian is good, but Conan the Destroyer is where it's at. And I remember like being in her.
That's hilarious.
I remember being like, I don't think I like this one as much as the other one. And I don't know. I like the movie, but I remember being like, I don't trust you about
Conan. Can I ask you your age? Because I do find this interesting. I mean, it's a bit of a topical thing, I think, as we think about Conan and exposure, and Howard. Because definitely, like, I just turned 51. I would have been 7 years old when the movie came out. I mean, you'll see that a lot of the fandom is, 10 to 20 years older than I am.
Right.
Where do you fall in the age range?
I'm 34. Okay. So I was born in 91 and the movie had been out for like 9 years at that point. And I always feel like a spring chicken as part of the, I'm part of Ray Hoopa, the United Press Association. Yeah. And I'm not trying to call anybody old or anything, but I think I'm like most,
no, you are 100% the young blood for sure. No two ways about it.
Guys in there are like at least twice my age. I get the sense that a lot of them are like in their 70s, maybe even. So I'm constantly feeling like a tiny little baby.
Yeah, growing up, I was an 80s kid, born in 75. But Conan was everywhere. And it was definitely through the movie. Now, Conan the Destroyer was my favorite Conan movie because I think I would have been young by the time I saw Conan the Barbarian. And it was probably a one-off viewing. And I'm guessing my dad might have skipped over maybe some of the nudity, some of that, because I would have just been 8 years old. So he probably let it go. But, when you're a kid too, you kind of, you don't know what you're supposed to look at.
Right.
But Conan the Destroyer was on. There was pay TV back in the day in Canada. It was First Choice Super Channel. And Conan the Destroyer was on. They would just play on repeat. And so me and my brothers would be in the basement and we would just watch Conan the Destroyer over and over again. So in our heads, this was the movie. And I've recently watched it with my son and he's like, Dad, this is nowhere near as good as Conan the Barbarian. But I mean, being that age, it was everywhere. It really defined Conan growing up. I saw Savage Sword everywhere, on the newsstands or in comic shops, but it always felt like the older kid thing. Mm-hmm. So I went most of my life just thinking about the movie. And my real introduction was the Kurt Busiek omnibus, and the omnibus number 1, and it's all the Dark Horse stories. And so I started reading that. I'm like, and this was, I don't know, over 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, this is different. And so I finished that. I'm like, well, there's no way I can read any more comic books because it was a nice re-entry into comics for me, having something different to read. It's not a
Were you a comic book nerd when you were a kid?
I was when I was a kid. I kind of went through 2 stages, around like the 8 years old to 14 years old. And then not really, then there was girls in high school and music. And then university, I kind of got into comics again for a little bit until that fell off again. So this was kind of like, Renaissance number 3 of reading comics. And then after after reading the stories, I'm like, oh, okay, now I gotta I gotta read the real stuff. So this is where I got this, and obviously it's ballooned from there. But I'm always interested in people's entry points for sure.
This is definitely a hobby that balloons. Like I feel like you find, like, you know, you read a Conan story you like, and then it's really easy to be like, to like read, I don't know. I've been checking out Kothar by Gardner Fox, or like Jirel of Jowry, or like Clark Ashton Smith, and just like spider web out until you have like way too many paperbacks and you're trying to read and keep up with the rate that you buy them at.
Yeah, I mean, just you were mentioning about writing essays and the writing. In some ways, I wish I had gone that route instead of YouTube. I don't even know why I started doing the videos other than a distraction. But the amount of time it takes, you know, to produce the videos, to write the little bit of content that I do, and then to produce the videos, like, oh, is it the best use of time, right?
It takes so long to do like the editing and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I regret starting a channel because I like the writing aspect, you know, and I can write something in a couple of days and put it up there. But I sit there, had that 45-minute-ish Savage Sword video that I put up a couple of months ago.
Yes,
I edited that thing for like 3 months. It took forever. And now I bought a new mic and I think my audio sounds terrible. So I'm already wishing I could redo it. But.
Did you buy the M Audio M track?
I bought a Rode mic. I ended up doing a lot of research and realizing I probably I could do okay with a USB mic. And so I've been really liking this one.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more comments. Sun and Steel Reads is in the house. We saw John was here. Anybody else new? If I can't see the name, we got Mem Monastor. Check out a couple comments here. It was John Bullard from the Robert E. Howard Foundation. He had posted, "We're worried about the great Howard die-off with most of us scholars in our 60s and 70s. Well, so that's why we got this guy.
Well,
we got Dan.
A couple of us, you know, like Lion from Sword and Sorcery Book Club. I get the sense that he's like in his 20s, maybe.
Yeah, mid to late 20s.
Like Molly Tanzer, who writes the new Jirel stuff. I don't think she's too much older or younger than me. There's dozens of us, you know, maybe.
Oh, we got Jeff back.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal. All right, I'm back.
Yeah, we were reflecting on John's comment about the great Howard die-off.
I did catch part of that, and yeah, we should actually talk about Ray Hoopa a little bit, because that's actually a pretty cool thing. And yeah, you are by far the youngest guy there. I mean, I'm also in my early 50s. I'm 53, and I'm considered the young blood, right? You know, until Dan showed up. So this is great. Now I feel old. Look at this. So let's talk. We should talk about that. Dan is one of the newest members of Ray Hoopa. For those who don't know, that's the Robert E. Howard United Press Association, and it's an amateur press associations are a type of fan activity that goes back to the early 20th century, and it's the kind of thing that Howard and Lovecraft themselves used to do back when they were, you know, when they were alive. And the way it works is everybody that's a member of the group, you do your own zine, your own fan zine, and you make enough copies for everybody that's in the group. You send them all to an editor who collates them all together into one big packet, and then sends them back out to everyone. Indy Bill Cavalier is the longtime editor of Ray Hoopa.
Really cool guy.
And Rusty Burke was the editor at one point. You know, it's been around since I believe 1970, I think is when it started. And it is, we believe, the oldest active amateur press association out there. And it's old school. It's papers and staples and snail mail. You know, the kind of fan activity that just is not done anymore. And I've been a member since probably about 2009, I think is when I joined, thereabouts. I was out for a little while. I have been slack and I have not sent in a zine. If I don't get a zine into this next one, Indy's going to kick me out too. So I gotta get something turned in. So, but yeah, Dan's our newest member, and that's super cool to have somebody, yes, from an earlier generation in their 30s this is good. It means maybe there's a future for Howarddom. You know?
I hope so. I mean, I hope there's those of us who pick up with it when, you know, the oldsters are too old.
Right.
And does the content from Ray Hoopa, does it appear published anywhere else other than just in the fanzine? I know that there's some of the older stuff that's collected in a couple volumes. But yeah, does it appear outside of the fanzine?
Generally speaking, no, unless you want to, right? So like sometimes I'll do like drafts of articles that I'm doing and stuff. I'll send out an early version, let some of the guys in there tear it apart before it sees the light of day. And I'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. I got to fix that. But not everybody. A lot of times it's all just pretty much for private consumption. It has gotten very heated in the past. There's lots of like behind the scenes drama.
There are little whispers at times. Like I'll see people when they're writing in there and I'm like, what are they talking about? Like I get the sense that there's drama there, but I don't know what it is.
When you come to Howard Days for the first time and we sit up late at night at the pavilion drinking beers, that's where you're going to hear all the dirt.
Oh, can't wait.
All the backstory. Yep.
It'll be cool.
Take a look at
Ray Hoopa is cool.
Right.
Just looking at a couple of other comments. Battenberg says, my dad waited in line for 5 hours to see Conan the Barbarian. Jesse Church says, I was introduced to Conan through the comics in 1979.
With, I think, the Bob Larkin profile pic. Is that Bob Larkin?
It looks like it. Yep. I think so.
I'm sure Jesse will let us know.
Yep.
Let's see. We have... will we ever see a Howard-esque Conan movie? One that stays closer to the source material. I mean, this has certainly been the topic du jour.
Right.
Don't look at me. I signed an
NDA. Oh, you have an NDA. You can't say anything. One
would hope that would be the case. One would hope so. Cool. God, we've been close several times. I wish there's projects I wish I could that didn't make it that I wish I could talk about because God, we've been close a few times.
An oral history of canceled Conan movies would be killer.
Movies and streaming and other projects. But there are several things that are, in the pipeline that should they come to fruition, I think a lot of fans are going to be really happy about.
I'm aware of at least one thing.
I don't even want to jinx it by saying too much, right? But
I did run a poll. I'll plug my video in my post. It was a poll, a survey. Hey, you Stygian Dogs, where do you stand on the prospect of an Arnold Schwarzenegger King Conan film? I'm feeling torn because, of course, there's that news where Arnie, I suppose, perhaps unilaterally, pumped up the notion that he was going to be in a King Conan film. And Fred Malmberg kind of said that, yeah, it's a discussion. It's not the first time that Arnold's done that.
It's not the first time he has maybe jumped the gun a little.
Exactly. So 43% of respondents, and it was actually, how many people responded? It was a pretty good poll. It was, doesn't list it. 237 votes, which is pretty good for my small channel. So 43% of respondents said, heck yeah. 15%, including myself, kind of said, meh, nifty, but it's got me worried. And then 7% said, whatever, it'll never happen anyway. And then 34% said, just give me some Howard Conan. So that speaks to the
I think that was my vote.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, those were not very scientific categories. We'd all love to see it. Feels like it's a couple decades too late. Now I find myself just too much of a Howard file that I just want to see. I want to see Howard Conan brought to life. I want to see Red Nails or something on the big screen.
That would probably be my choice as well if I had to pick one of the stories. That or People of the Black Circle, probably.
Yeah.
See, Red Nails is one of those projects that almost got made, the animated version that looked like it would have been pretty cool back in the early 2000s that sadly didn't make it. Ron
Perlman is Conan, right?
Ron Perlman is Conan, voice of Conan. I can't, I don't want to say a whole lot, but
Howard Days beer conversation.
Right. I've gone back and forth over the years on do we have do another Arnold movie? I was for a long time I was less keen on the idea. You know, Crown of Iron maybe would have been okay when it was being pitched, and 25 years ago. Which, God, holy cow, 25 years ago is when Crown of Iron was first pitched, right? Early, like 2001, 2002, something like that. After the Momoa movie came out, and I think a large part of why there were a number of reasons that movie was perhaps not as successful as one would have liked. But part of it too is like nobody gave it a chance anyway. Even had it been better, I think it would have not done as well because people just didn't want anybody but Arnold. They'd been promised this third Arnold movie ever since we were kids. We had that montage of him at the very end sitting on the throne. We have been promised this forever. And so there's still that, sort of sense that we never got closure. So I finally got to the point like, okay, you know what? I'm fine with it. Just, I was the same way. I just want a Howard movie. Let's move on, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But you know what? At a certain point, okay, if that will give us closure, maybe I'm okay with it. And then when Legend of Conan was being pitched, which was based on a really good novel, Legend by David Gemmell, I was actually like, God, you know what? That's actually not bad. That might actually work. It was it's not a Conan story, but it's David Gemmell's heavily Howard influenced, so I was kind of there for it. I'm like, all right, you know what? Sure, let's do it. One last ride. Let's get it over with. Let's lance that boil, and then maybe we can move on, and actually get some Howard stuff. And sadly, it didn't happen because he came back and did the Terminator movie right before that. Whatever, I forget what that was. Genesis,
maybe.
Yeah, whatever it was, but
the ones we don't talk about.
Yeah, it was supposed to be his big comeback, and it just completely flopped, and so that killed, any momentum that killed it, So we'll see. Yes, it like everyone's talking. Well, now it's way too late, even, but I don't, and this is me. I don't really know anything about this project at all. I really don't, But other than it exists, like I know what you guys know, right at this point. But what makes me think, okay, maybe is the fact that de-aging technology has now gotten so much more advanced. Sort of like it's got to look better than De Niro in the whatever.
Oh, but, the Irishman.
Yeah, the Irishman.
He's like 20 years old, and he's like, ugh.
Well, that's that's
that
just
was
it,
several
right?
years ago too, right? Like we've gotten a little, it's been several years since then. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
that maybe with some de-aging, maybe
you can de-age, but you can't de-age the motion capture, gait. And as we age, we have a different gait. Right. So then you just start to get to too much AI, and then.
Well, it's still gonna have to be old Conan, right? But maybe we could make him a 60-year-old Conan instead of an 80-year-old Conan, maybe.
Yeah, so the gait might match.
Maybe I'm trying. I'm hopeful. Honestly, I'm at this point. Like it sounds crazy, but at this point, I'm actually hopeful. Let's do it. Why not? For those of us from that era, and like I said, I've gone back and forth on Arnold Conan. At this point, I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Let him have one last ride. There'll be plenty of time for other, other Conan projects. And I know that there's several other out there that I'm really very hopeful for, that I think will be more appealing to the more Howard centric fans.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Again,
it's fascinating because we don't know what happens behind the scenes and how things get produced. Because you think you have this entity that's going to do nothing but make money. So why aren't they making money?
It is so hard.
All the machinations, right?
And listen, I can tell you, I know, sometimes Fred gets heat and stuff like that. I know he is working his ass off all the time trying to get projects made. That it's never like they're never not working on trying to get something done. It's a hard environment. It's tough. And I see this now after having seen so many really good projects that on paper had the right names attached, big names, talented names, and just, scripts were great. And it just, the studios, it just doesn't happen. It's even when it seems like you got all the pieces there, to make something great, it's just a tough environment. It's tough to get anything made.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, but we'll see.
Time. There is this is a non-Conan related question, a behind the scenes question. What kind of Gretsch is behind Styg? This is not a fancy Gretsch. This is just an electromatic, but it's a newer version. They call it the Les Paul Killer. It's pretty good. I have a Les Paul too. I tend to be a Fender guy, but with the 6-string guitar, I do love Gibsons. And I would love to have like a junior because they're really sweet too. But this is nice. So my studio is an office, and it's in an outbuilding. So I keep my better musical instruments inside my house. So I have this electromatic here, but it's a really sweet guitar. And then out here I have an Ibanez bass, active electronics. So these are kind of my practice instruments. But the good stuff stays in the house proper. So I'm a Fender guy as a bass player.
Playing it, right? You did a Howard poem.
Yeah, so I did the the adaptation of the Howard poem, Chant Demoniac, in song. I did that on my acoustic guitar. My acoustic is just like a Yamaha, but I'm mostly a bass player.
Me too.
I love my Fender American. It's a sweet bass. So anyway, now you know that's some behind the scenes information. Let me see if there's any other. I'm going to do a scan of the comments. Headwop says here, I only knew Conan through Frazetta for years. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely introduction for many of us. At least a visual representation.
It's striking.
At Howard Days, are we not also celebrating a bit of an anniversary? It's at
several anniversaries. It's
anniversaries,
it's the 40th anniversary of Howard Days itself. The original Howard Days, it was 6 people that showed up. And at the time there wasn't really an idea of creating, a mini con or anything like that. It was 6 members of Ray Hoopa, like we were talking about earlier, that decided, hey, let's go to Cross Plains, because nobody had really been there. No fans had really been there before. Let's go to Cross Plains, and we'll do it on the anniversary of Howard's death. And we're just going to go there and we're going to pour one out for him. It was more of a memorial even kind of idea. And it was Rusty Burke and Indy Cavalier, who we've talked about, and some other folks that aren't really in fandom anymore. But one of the other people that some people may know is Nancy Collins. Nancy, she was a member of Ray Hoopa at the time. She went on to become a professional writer. She wrote the Sonia Blue vampire novels in the 90s that were real popular for a while. She may be best known as the person, she writes comics. She's done Red Sonja, a number of other things. In fact, Sonia Blue obviously was a play on Red Sonja, right? But she's probably best known for taking over Swamp Thing after Alan Moore. She did the Swamp Thing after Alan Moore. So she's a great writer. She's still around. She's still involved somewhat in fandom, not as actively as before, but she's in Atlanta. So I see her occasionally here at some of the Southeast shows. But that was it. It was 6 people that showed up in 1986, and they went to the library. They went to the to the house. There was people living there at that point. It wasn't there was still a family living there, and it was in pretty rough shape by all accounts. And we're going to hear about that at Howard Days this year. Rusty and Bill are going to tell their stories. But that's how it started. And then they decided to just keep coming back, and it became an annual thing, and more people started coming, and eventually, it became this. It's grown into several hundred people that show up now, and it's not really like a normal con. It's in a lot of ways, we describe it usually as almost like a family barbecue or a family reunion. It's informal. We do have panels and things like that, but Cross Plains is kind of in the middle of nowhere. You have to want to get there. You don't happen upon it by accident. Tell you now, right? It's an adventure just getting there. Yeah. And so then you're kind of all trapped there together for the weekend in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. It's almost like a retreat in some ways.
Yeah. So this year it is June 12th to 13th. I feel like it's going to probably be a well-attended year this year. 120 years of Robert E. Howard, 40 years of Howard Days.
Right.
30th anniversary of The Whole Wide World.
That's
the
right.
movie, of course, Michael
I gotta
Scott
watch
Myers.
that before I haven't never seen
You should watch it. We're working on trying to have a screening there at Howard Days. We're going to have Michael Scott Myers, who's a screenwriter and one of Novel and Price's students, is going to be there. We're going to have a panel on that, and I believe we may have one of the actors from the film at least zooming in if we can get the technology working. The Wi-Fi in Cross Plains is not always the most reliable, but we'll see. Working on that.
We can do it via cellular, high speed.
Yeah, we can make it work, I think.
Yeah. 60 years of Conan the Adventurer, the Lancer paperback from was it paperback initially?
Right.
Probably 1966. So that brings us to the Frazetta connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, definitely raising money for the Howard House Museum.
That's right.
And Jeff, you've done some work on the house, right? I don't know.
I have. Yeah. I've been I've kind of taken the lead to some degree on doing the actual sort of behind the scenes, reaching out to the contractors, working with the Texas Historic Commission. My background's in archaeology, and so historic preservation is adjacent at least. And so I actually and the engineering company I work for has an architectural historian that I work with, and so I got her out there. We did the initial condition assessment of the house, and much to our horror, when we looked under the house, it was not good. So we are working now to raise money. For those who may not know, I think probably a lot of your listeners are regulars, and they've probably somewhat aware of this at least. We have raised a tremendous amount of money, just fans. The Robert E. Howard Foundation has raised over $30,000. Just recently, the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society held a raffle and raised over $20,000.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Right now, it's phenomenal, and that's just fans, regular fans, donating what they can, a little bit here, a little bit there, and again, thank you, all you guys, for doing this. This house is so important. We are so fortunate to have a space like this, to celebrate Howard. And we're applying for a grant with the Texas Trust for Historic Preservation, and it's a $50,000 matching grant, which means if we can come up with $50,000 and we get the grant, the state will match us another $50,000 for $100,000 total. And
Right.
we've now, after this raffle, we've now got that match at least.
Cool.
So we're almost there. Some of the estimates put it, the cost of the repairs are probably going to be closer to about 150. But between the grant and this, if we win the grant, we'll be in good shape, I think to get it across the finish line. And hopefully by Howard Days 2027, the house will be fully repaired and in many ways will be restored closer to its original appearance when Howard lived there. That's the idea too.
I've been looking forward to seeing the sleeping porch because I've read so much about the sleeping porch.
Yes, well, it was a sleeping porch that got converted, and part of it now is Bob's room, which when you come to Howard Days, you'll get to see it. It's let Stygian Dogs, you tell us what was your first thought when you saw that room?
I mean, I don't want to get too mystical, but it seems possessed a bit. It possesses a certain energy for starters.
Yeah.
There's something magical about it. But it's tiny. I mean, I think about modern woes. I have 2 kids, a wife, 2 kids. You're looking for a big house. Everybody's lamenting these small abodes, especially if you're downtown Toronto. But it's small. So the house itself, you're really struck by its size. But I don't know. It feels real. It feels lived in. It feels familiar. Like it feels like neighbors and families, houses that I've been to as well. But that room, it's magical. But you can just the energy that must have bounced off the walls in there. I think that's what strikes me. I mean, it's set up, with a typewriter and the desk and everything. So it's it's a recreation in that sense, I suppose. But just when you think the volume of stories and poems, and Yeah, you're gonna dig it.
Yeah, it's cool. There's nothing like it. It's you know, and again, any of you out there, fans, if you've never been to Howard Days, I highly recommend, you know, make the pilgrimage, you know, do it at least once. You know, you may end up getting stuck. You know, that's what happens. You come once, and then all of a sudden you're a regular. Ask Stygian Dogs here. Look,
Yeah,
this is your third year now, right?
this will be my second year. It'll be Lions third.
Lions third year. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's, I mean, what's great is how accessible everybody is. I mean, you're probably run ragged because you do a lot of organization, but you make yourself available to everybody. I mean, everybody that's there. You know, John, Paul, Rob Ream, oh my gosh, Chris Gruber, Indies everywhere.
Mark Fenn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mark. So everybody's totally accessible.
Right.
It's pretty magical in that way. And this year, like I know Jim Zub's going to be there. Sean Curley is going to be there for sure from Titan Comics, Heroic Signatures, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I will just point out that the fundraising website, I'm sure everybody that's joining us now is familiar with it, but it is the rehfoundation.org/save-the-reh-museum. Donate if you haven't, or spread the word.
You can see the top donation there. That's from the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
Yeah, it's a number, man.
Yeah,
yep.
I was pretty surprised. I'm surprised. I don't know. Stoked to see it, anyways.
Yeah.
John, he had said, "Are they ever going to release Condell's scripts?" I'm thinking Jeff knows more about that than I do. What did Condell work on?
Oh, I don't know if I can talk about that or not.
Okay. John, you're gonna get us in trouble.
Let me think about what's public. I guess we knew that he was the writer. I don't know that I don't know that they legally can be released. I will say that I did get to read them, and I'm very, though they were good. It's heartbreaking. They were really, really good.
Yeah.
You don't want. Damn it.
Rob Champ had commented. I saw articles too on this today. Pics of Arnold getting jacked for the Conan movie. So he's still pushing it one way or the other. He wants it to happen.
You know, that's the one thing too that also gives me hope. He really does want it. You know, like, you know, I'm hopeful. You know, I'm not as jaded as I used to be.
That's a good direction to move in.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's have fun with it.
Mechasaurus. Yeah. Why didn't they just adapt one of his stories instead of doing their own inferior stories? That's the constant lament.
Dude, I feel like a show that's like basically an anthology, because there's like no character carryover from one story to the next. That would be like the Cadillac, you know?
Yeah.
Do Red Nails one week, do Frost Giant's Daughter the next week, break Hour of the Dragon into 3 parts or something.
Yeah, and don't worry about continuity. You know, just how the one-offs, the way TV's meant to be.
Ryan Condell's scripts would have been adaptations.
Yeah. Right, so we don't want to hear that. Break our hearts.
You see, this is why I'm like, I don't want to talk about it.
Definitely need a good writing team and director who is familiar with the source material. Rob's comment here. This is one I've thought of. It would be fun to see, like Arnie's son play the young Conan.
Does his son act?
Well, he's got the 2. He has.
I didn't even know that. Interesting.
Yeah, he has. That's the older one who was in that show that I don't really care for. The one set at the. Oh, help me out, chat. What's the show set at the hotel?
Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's the I can't remember what it's called. It's the one that's set at a hotel. The first season is set in a hotel in Hawaii or something like that.
Oh, The White Lotus?
The White Lotus.
Oh, I loved The White Lotus.
I didn't care for it, but we can we can talk about it. And then he has the younger son. I don't think he has the Schwarzenegger surname. It's from that relationship. But he's jacked. He has a more Arnold type physique, where the oldest son, maybe we're screwing the names up, but I think Patrick is seems taller and leaner. I don't know if that's the case, but he doesn't have the bulk that Arnie has. But yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun to see them do something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Jeff, I got a question for you that's been burning a hole in my pocket.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you end up the guy who writes the essays at the back of the Conan comics? Because frankly, that's my dream job.
I know, right?
I want to like poison your coffee. It's
taking me about 15 years to get there.
Yeah.
I whoops, hang on, sorry, that's my daughter. Hang on. Yeah, so I started, I guess, I was doing a lot of academic work on Howard when I really started getting involved in, the mid 2000 the aughts and late aughts and then in the teens. And, at some point I don't even know how I got in. Maybe it was with the Modifius role-playing game. At some point I started, hang on a second.
I'm gonna plug 2 + 2 is 5.
Do that real quick here while I tell my
he
daughter
watches all of our content.
Yeah, that dude leaves great comments on all.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and buddy. Yeah, you always have so much to offer, and I feel like I never do justice to your comments when you post them. And yeah, he's just offering up. I do agree that the people of Black Circle would make a great movie. It has
100%.
And so great to see you here. Thanks for joining. I know he had posted online. He had a question we can pose to Jeff later as well. Well, we can open it up to everybody.
Yeah. So in answer to Dan's question, though, I started, I got a gig, I guess, being a consultant on a couple of different things. And I forget what was first. It may have been the Modifius game, but then I did, end up being kind of a behind the scenes consultant on some of the scripts and for some of the projects that were being done, and I guess one thing kind of led to another, and I sort of became originally Paradox and later Heroic Signatures, kind of one of their go-to guys for just consulting work, essentially. Where it'll be a quick question. Hey, is it Derketo or Deketa? Like I was like the go-to guy for like the obscure things like that, and we started talking about pitching you're getting it going, the new comic series. That was.
So you were there on like the ground level.
Oh yeah, I was there on the ground level. Yeah, cool. I was kind of already behind the scenes with them as a consultant. I was kind of the go-to guy whenever they would have projects. They would send me to on some of the video games, and that's how I got to read Ryan's scripts and give him notes, and things like that. And so yeah, it's been a while getting there, but you're right. It's like my dream job too. Like now I'm actually getting to which reminds me, I'm late. I got my essay for 31. I'm always running behind, trying to get these essays in.
You do a lot.
I do a lot.
Yeah, well, Otto Houlihan here says, will Jeff be writing any more stories for Savage Sword?
Okay, so yes. I'm actually working on and another one I got to finish. I'm working on, I guess I can say this. I'm working on a prose story this time, though. You know how there's occasional prose stories.
Okay.
In Sword. I'm gonna have my first prose story. It'll be a while because let me tell you that like Chris Butera's slush pile I know is huge for Savage Sword. Everybody wants to get in Savage Sword. In fact, I had originally envisioned this as another comic story, but he's like, sure, no problem. We can get it in there probably by about 2029. Or you can do a prose story and then maybe it'll be next year, So we'll see. It's going to be with a lesser known but very much overlooked Howard character, and I think it's going to be super cool.
Okay,
that'd be awesome. Yeah. Do you have like a background in writing fiction?
No, I'm an archaeologist. My background, most of my writing is academic. And I have dabbled. I did a lot. I've edited fiction. Edited a fiction journal. I did start doing a bit of fiction writing for the role-playing game, but even there, it was mostly writing lore and stuff like that. I did write I wrote some things in the voice of Kirwan for the role playing game, and another one in the voice of wrote a lot of the Gazetteer in there in the voice of Astraeus, the Nemedian scholar from A Witch Shall Be Born. Kind of writing it like he's sort of a Hyborian age Herodotus. So a little bit here and there. I've dabbled. So I'm very new at fiction, and I have more experience editing fiction than I do writing it. So we'll see. It may suck. I don't know. We'll see.
Great.
We'll judge harshly. Sun and Steel Reed says, I'd really like to see an adaptation of Worms of the Earth. It was my first non-Conan Howard story. 100%. It's a great one. I feel like I don't know, but I feel like we've got Kings of the Night coming up somehow. Nobody's told me this, but I just sense it. I don't know if Worms of the Earth is on the horizon or not, but it would be great to see. I
think that would be a killer movie. I mean, you have to do it truly as a horror movie. Really, it's historical horror, really, ultimately. And I think it's one of Howard's best stories, if not his. That may be his best work, in my opinion. It's certainly probably top 3, easy. I'd love to see that. Yep,
that's cool. Huh. I was laughing because the other day you commented on something on Reddit, and it was like a Decurta type thing,
right?
Like pushed their glasses up and actually you.
Somebody actually,
sir, you know not who you speak to. Like,
do I need to really break out the receipts? Come on.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way this guy knows.
It was pretty sweet.
With you.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't. I do vaguely remember that. I don't even remember what it was though. Like I was like, no, man. Like
it was pretty awesome to see. Yeah, Lek gives a shout out. The end book essays are one of the things that the book is really doing right.
Thanks, brother.
Rest of the book is trash.
Oh, Jim's not on here. Wait.
He's busy in Florida this weekend.
Yep. Yeah, he's a MegaCon. Used to be one of my shows. But
I went there one time when I lived twice when I lived in Florida. Great con. Huge con.
Yep. Huge. Yep. I met Sarah Frazetta there for the first time, actually, at MegaCon years ago. That's how we first met. God, that must have been 15 years ago. Yeah.
The Frazetta Museum's in Florida, right?
Well,
is that the one in Pennsylvania?
That's the one in Pennsylvania. Although Sarah, they are working on a museum down there in the Sarasota area.
Oh, that's where I used to live. Man, I wish I had known about that stuff when I lived on it.
Yeah.
So Jeff, we can plug this too. Hold on, let me get something up on the stage here. Just navigating these things. No dead air. No dead air.
I can talk if you want me to talk. I'm trying to be good here and not dominate the conversation.
No, it's so here. Jeff just released today a new video. Well, this is your post, but Reptilian Origins, the Emerald Tablets, Conan the Barbarian, all the reptilian illusions of Robert E. Howard's.
This is something that's kind of been floating out there for a while. The idea that the modern reptilian, shape-shifting lizard people thing, that David Icke really started popularizing in the late 90s, early 2000, and now it's kind of become a meme and whatever. That it has its origins with Robert E. Howard's Serpent Men from the Shadow Kingdom, and it was a couple of guys right around the same time, 2003, that I think independently realized that, that came from Howard. One is Michael Barkoon, who's an academic, historian or cultural historian who wrote a book called Culture of Conspiracy, which is an excellent book. The original version came out in 2003. He updated it maybe about 10 years ago because it needed updating as we were getting new conspiracies like QAnon and things like that. But what he pointed out was that there was an occultist, mid-century occultist named Maurice Doreal, who published a book called The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. and it's become a book that's very popular in kind of New Age and alternative history circles. I remember coming across it in the 90s, when I was first getting into Graham Hancock and all those kinds of things back in the day. And in it, he describes serpent men, like a race of serpent men. And it turns out that he takes it almost verbatim from the Shadow Kingdom. It's a race of shape-shifting serpent men. He even refers to it, I have to excuse the cat here. He even refers to it as the Kingdom of Shadows. He even uses that phrase in there, like, the Shadow Kingdom.
Yeah, What's the cat's name?
This is Nichols.
He wants to be on the live stream.
He 100% wants to be in the live stream here. Come here. Oh, do not purr in the microphone. So apparently this occultist decided to, get some of his ideas, not just from ancient Hermetic texts, but also from Weird Tales in 1929. There's also lines in there that was stolen directly from The Hounds of Tindalos by Frank Belknap Long. There's some stuff in there that's probably from Lovecraft. One of the things that no one's identified yet that I talk about in my video is there's actually a lot of influence of Abraham Merritt, who's another early pulp, fantasy and science fiction writer that a lot of people don't remember today, but he was huge in the early part of the 20th century. He wrote The Moon Pool and Facing the Abyss and, a few other, early kind of pioneering, works in speculative fiction. So, this became really popular. It ended up influencing the early flying saucer scene. Doriel was a big pulp fan, and he wrote into Amazing Stories during the Shaver mystery craze in the mid 40s. His work, eventually he wrote a couple of other books, The Mysteries of the Gobi, that had his serpent men in them. And that's where he kind of put them in Antarctica. This is where we start getting like subterranean Antarctica, alien bases and things like that. This is all in the 1940s, very early on. He wrote a flying saucer book a few years later where he makes them explicitly, extraterrestrials, for the first time. So now we have full on shape-shifting reptilian extraterrestrials. And it all really comes from the Shadow Kingdom. It would go on. Nobody's really fleshed out the whole like pathway that this idea, how did it really get all the way into modern times? David Icke does cite the Emerald Tablets in his second book, his second reptilian book. But it actually, it permeates, a lot of the like UFO and Hollow Earth subculture in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I actually found some rare zines, UFO zines from the 70s and 80s, where it shows that they were taking that idea, and that is what fed into, some of the like the Dulce base, reptilian alien things in the 80s and 90s, and I remember the early days of the internet. I was reading all of this stuff, and on Usenet, in the 90s and stuff,
that's what the internet was for back in the day.
Right. And I had no idea that you could trace it directly back to the Shadow Kingdom. But I've been able to do that. And that's where I go down all of those rabbit holes in this video. It was supposed to be about a 20-minute quickie video. And the more I kept researching it and finding more and more and more, I'm like, oh my God, I got to talk about this. I got to talk about that. And it turned into a long form accidentally.
It's wild how pervasive and modern that theory is. And just to think that there is a root to it. And if people just knew, but the belief is just so strong, the conspiratorial belief.
Listen, when we mentioned it on, and Sean brought it up, and the, one of the videos on the official Conan channel, he just did a quickie lore video, like a little 10-minute video on this basic idea. And he got lit up with 100,000 people believing in reptilians, that were like, what are you talking about? No, they're real, right? So
dude, I live in Denver. I go through DIA, which is like the most.
I've got a great picture of me from the Denver airport with the alien from the donut shop there. Like,
apparently the guys who like drive the like baggage trucks underground have like a serpent man mask that they wear.
That's awesome.
As a joke.
Love it, man. Yes, I mean they're totally leaning into it with the Denver airport. I love it that they are. But yeah, it's so I have no doubt once it goes viral past the Conan crowd and people start picking up the search terms that I may get some kind of hardcore, but that's fine. It's cool.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in fringe communities, and it's okay. I'm good with it.
So John's got a comment here, and I have a question related. So John's saying, didn't the serpent men come from theosophy?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Is the answer. Yes and no. So Madame Blavatsky does talk about dragon kings and things like that. A lot of people, if you actually go back and read where she talks about that in The Secret Doctrine, it's very stylized in the way she writes about it, but she's actually talking about dinosaurs, not like dragon men so much. It's that's often taken out of context. I think where Howard may have gotten, and in any case, I don't think he ever read Blavatsky. I think his theosophical influences came to him indirectly, probably through William Scott Elliott's Atlantis and Lemuria books. Also, Yogi Ramacharaka, we know he was reading him, who was really William Walker Atkinson. He's probably the same guy that wrote the Kybalion, if you're familiar with that sort of neo-Hermetic text. So most of his theosophical influences were indirect, and none of them talk about anything like a serpent, like the serpent men. And even Blavatsky's references are often misunderstood. That said, I do think he was getting some of these ideas from places, like probably from mythology, like the Nagas, in Hindu mythology are, an underground serpent race that can appear human. I've actually been trying to figure out where he might have gotten some of those ideas from.
So it's been racking my brain. I mean, just because of the popularity of Orientalism at the time and the Blavatsky stuff, and I've been racking my brain. So in the Himalayas, in Tibet and Ladakh, that sort of area, there's the tongue greeting, right? So it's that you show your tongue as a greeting. And I swear that there is a primary source somewhere from the 20s, maybe early teens, where they express this. So it's meant, so there was a lama back in the days who was not a good ruler. And it was said that he had a black tongue. And so to show that you're not a demon per se, or you're not under their influence, or to spite this particular, what's his name? I think it's King Lang Dharma. It's okay. But he was rumored to have a black tongue. So as a form of greeting, you would stick out your tongue to show that you do not have a black tongue. And it persists in Tibet and the Ladakh area today, in the Himalayas. But I am convinced that somewhere I had read a primary source material, probably from the teens or the 20s, that expressed that it was to show that you don't have a serpent tongue. Which is actually incorrect, based on the Tibetan tradition. But I've gone through all my books in my library. I'm trying to find where I read this I've gone through so many antique books on Tibetan Buddhism, because I know somewhere it had been expressed as the exposing of a serpent tongue. And it probably comes from a misunderstanding, probably from the Indian subcontinent and the Nagas, things like that. But you're not familiar with such a text, are you? Because I swear there's a connection there.
Unless it's in Osendowski's Beasts, Men, and Gods, which is like 1922, 1923, which is kind of the text that sort of popularized Agartha and the King of the World and that whole concept.
But I just love the idea that, just like Kanamaka Lajarama, it's the showing of the tongue that will reveal the serpent man's true existence.
I know. The thing that I liked was that Jeff mentioned the other phrase that
Kinnaningen,
and I was like, I wouldn't be able to say that, man.
I know, right?
The guy's a serpent dude.
Where is that? I've got mysteries. I got all this stuff is like laying around here now, because I'm like throwing these up during the video. I've got like stacks of these rare things all over the place.
I think that's so cool about your videos, that you have so many like first editions and rare books and stuff like that. I think that's That adds value to it.
I kind of thought it would be fun to just make that kind of the gimmick of these, because I've got all this. I have been like for years collecting all of this crazy rare stuff, right? Not just Howard stuff, but rare books on Atlantis and occult stuff, and just having. I mean, honestly, just having a first edition of the Emerald Tablets. That is, I lucked out. That took me years to find, and it was in an auction in Australia, like an estate sale auction. That it was a collection of occult books, and I just lucked out and got a copy of that. There's can't be more than 10 or 15 of those in existence still, so that was pretty cool. So yeah, we flipped through that in the video, which is kind of fun, but I love. I do like being able to share those things. So that's kind of a fun thing. You don't get to, see some of these, rare books and things all that often. So yeah, if people like that, I may make that a part of my gimmick, right? Like, hey, look at this cool thing,
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's great that you lend the academic touch to things. There's the fandom, the kind of thing that I do, to celebrate the comics and things like that. But it's nice to have the more rigorous academic sense of things, the stuff that Dan brings us to. Definitely.
I've been trying to push that direction. I've always felt really comfortable in academia. If I could go back and redo like my English degree or my master's and talk about Howard stuff, man, would I? But
you can do that now. I mean, that's kind of what I got involved when I started really doing the academic stuff. It was getting involved at PCA, the Popular Culture Association.
You recommended that to me.
Yes, yeah, 100%. You should do it. There was Mark did it, Rusty did it, Groob, a bunch of us did it. I ended up becoming the area chair for pulp studies, for several years. I forget how long, maybe 5 or 6 years. And then Jason Carney took it over. And now it's Dan Looks doing it now. And for those who don't know, Dan Looks, he's a crazy guy. He's a math professor. That's the other thing. Like it's not a bunch of lit crit people. It's archaeologists. It's mathematicians. It's kind of multidiscipline. But like what Dan does, he does stylometric analysis of texts and things like that. So applying math to it. Jonas Prida is going to be there. He did edited Conan Meets the Academy.
Yeah. Such a great book.
It's he's on Reddit too. He's Perverse Osmosis, I think, on there, so okay. Yeah, he's one of the regulars there in Reddit, sneaking around here and there. So there was a group of us that were, really sort of pushing the academic side of things. And we are, fortunate that we do have a peer reviewed journal, in Howard Studies, The Dark Man, which is MLA listed now. It's, taken a long time to get there. It started kind of as a glorified high-end fanzine, basically in the early 90s. When Rusty Burke started it, and
there hasn't been an issue of that in quite a while, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
So there's been a couple of years since there's been an issue, and it's in a transition period. So Jason Carney and Nicole Immelhains, his wife, they were editing it and doing a great job with it, but it got to the point where they really didn't have the bandwidth to keep it going. Mm-hmm. So there's been work on trying to hand it off now to Ben Garstad and Tracy Henley. And Tracy is at East Texas A&M University. And what's been going on was some work behind the scenes to try and get it transferred to that university so that it does have university backing and will now be in a Texas university. And so that actually just in the last couple of months has finally gotten approval. And so The Dark Man is going to be kicking off again with a new editorial board, and it's going to be sponsored, finally with a Texas university. We'll be talking about that some at Howard Days. But yes, Dan, I you don't even know this already, but I was already going to hit you up to submit to that.
I've been wanting to contribute to that for a year and a half, and I sent stuff to Carney.
Hang on to it. It's coming, right? It's just it's behind the scenes, the academic side of things, getting it transferred from one university to another. That took a lot of approvals and things like that, but it'll be worth it. this may be a good time to mention that one of the things that we do at Howard Days every year is we have an academic panel there that is, like a symposium. It's the Glenn Lord Symposium. And I was the one who founded it. And back in when we were starting to do a lot of this work and going to conferences like the Popular Culture Association Conference, the ICFA, the International Conference for the Fantastic and the Arts. What I wanted to do was bring back some of that academic work that's being done out there, bring it back to the fans at Howard Days and let them get a sense of what we do. And so it's an academic panel, but it's also usually try to tell the presenters like you did, like, tone down the jargon a little bit, make it, scholarly, but accessible too. Right. And it like that panel is always packed to the gills and they're really interested and happy to see that this kind of work is being done with Howard. This year, Dan is going to be presenting at the Glenn Lord Symposium.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. After you said, don't just read a paper. Yeah. I'm an English teacher, so yes. I give, 5 of these presentations a day, basically. I'm just going to try to do it as accessible as possible. Yeah.
And that's what I do. I do have papers. A lot of these end up being written, but I got a PowerPoint. I'm talking to the slides. I talk with my hands, so it makes it more engaging. That said, people have come and just read, and I'm like, oh God, this isn't the crowd for that. It's not like an academic, so yeah, we have fun with it. It's much more informal, but it is a chance to show, the fans that, we're doing serious work on Howard too.
Yeah. And Dan, can you share the topic of your Glenn Lord Symposium lecture?
I'm not done with it yet, but when I was reading Will Oliver's Life and Times of a Texas Author, it kind of struck me. Like, I taught Great Gatsby to 11th graders for like 5 or 6 years in a row, and it kind of struck me, right? I'm bringing mine so he'll sign it. I'm bringing all my books so everybody will sign it.
Nice.
It struck me, though, that F. Scott Fitzgerald and Robert E. Howard kind of see the world in the same way. I don't think they'd like each other. I think they'd hate each other. And I think they're writing different perspectives. Like, Howard is writing from completely outside this godforsaken Babylon that is society. And F. Scott's writing from like within it and kind of hoping maybe I could be on top of it and then I'd be okay. But like the Valley of Ashes in The Great Gatsby is not that dissimilar from like Zuccottl in Red Nails or any other number of decaying cities in Howard stuff. And so I've been working on that for a couple of months.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Nice. I hope people like it. I don't know.
Oh.
That's an enthusiastic bunch there.
Cool. Can't wait to meet everybody. It sounds like super chill. I'm hoping to buy like a huge case of Lone Star and just, help yourself, people.
That's what we do. Yeah. Or Scheiderbach.
Yeah, you don't have to worry.
We'll help yourself sign on the cooler.
You'll be
provided. Zoris had a follow-up. The ancient alien thing may have been inspired by At the Mountains of Madness. If you mean the Antarctic thing, yeah, potentially. Or also John Campbell's story, which was in turn probably inspired by At the Mountains of Madness. Who Goes There, which was the basis for The Thing. He published that. He was the editor of Astounding, where At the Mountains of Madness was published. And Doriel was reading. He was clearly reading the pulp. So that's very possible that one of those two stories may have been his inspiration for that.
Yeah. I guess you just had a recent video too with Sean from Heroic Signatures.
The Lovecraft
kind of diving into Lovecraft stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And I didn't get a chance to watch that one yet, but
we actually filmed that like almost a year ago. I'd forgotten what all I said. I was like, oh God, I hope I didn't suck on this one. I was watching. Okay, all right, that's not too bad. That's pretty good. I'd forgotten what all we talked about.
Yeah, I think with that one, I mean, the more we read, if you've read Will Oliver's book, you start to get a gist of what the content of some of these videos are. But it's a great primer.
Yeah. It seems like a great way to get new people on board, I think. Yeah. Stygian Dogs, I have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're doing a lot of sitting there listening.
I'm also looking at things behind the scenes. So
I have been wondering. I was doing some writing about this recently, and I wanted to know what other people's thoughts were.
Okay.
Zub is contracted through issue 50 on Conan.
Yeah.
Assuming he leaves, let's say he gets the chance to go write for Marvel or something. Who do you want to pick up with issue 51 to write next, and why?
Oh my God. That's when you should have emailed me in advance.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think anybody from the stable that we've seen with Savage Sword would be great, but I think we would need a period where we don't have just one author. I think we would see a rotation. I think that would be fitting for after Jim.
That's kind of what Savage Sword always did in the 70s and 80s. There was the little round table of guys who would contribute an issue or two for 3 or 6 issues, and then the next guy'd take over.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see that. And just, I mean, Jim and I had talked a while ago that the way he writes, it still allows room for other storytelling. So it's not like sort of some of the Busick stuff where he fills in the blanks between stories a little bit more, where Jim leaves things open for other writers to jump in. So I honestly don't have a name on the top of my head. I'm trying to think of. It would be nice to have some fresh talent. There's so many good ideas out there. I know Brian D. Anderson, who he wrote the short story "The Child" and Comrades. I really love those stories. He had sent me, a bit of a treatment that he was working on for Savage Sword.
Cool.
So it'd be nice. It's just there's so much talent out there. So I'm going to be evasive and not give you a proper answer, but it is something to think about, right? So I do feel, I mean, maybe Jim will be invited beyond that, but in talking to him, it feels like 50 is just a good number.
Mm-hmm.
Have a nice, good omnibus or two out of it, and then leave fulfilled.
I felt really bad about Brian D. Anderson when I was reviewing all the Heroic Signatures books, and The Child was really, really good. And I wrote about it that way, like very positive. And I was like, I mean, the title sucks, but and then he showed up in my comments like, yeah, that was a placeholder title. And I was like, I feel so terrible right now. Like, I loved your story, dude. I'm sorry.
I mean, we got some suggestions. We got Chuck Dixon. I do know, many of us have read his books under the independent publisher, purportedly published under the public domain. It's under
Chuck Dixon's Conan books.
Yeah, and I believe Heroic Signatures might have them now. I don't know how the licensing goes. Yeah, I mean, Chuck's good. He's written some great Savage Sword stuff in the past. I enjoyed those books for what they were. I know Luck and I have talked about this before, but I do think they needed a bit of an editor.
I just got through. I just did the introduction for the new for volume 11 of the Savage Sword omnibus.
Yeah, which
was right there in Chuck's heyday, there in the late 80s, and
pray tell.
Nemedian Navy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, things got pretty bad in Savage Sword towards the end.
I was like, man, this is the one I have to, yes, because I had to read them all to talk about all these issues, and I read them all as a kid, as a teenager. I'm like, wow.
There's some good ones in there.
There are some good ones.
Oh yeah,
there 144 and 145, The Waiting Doom and something else is really good. And then there's one I can never remember where Conan's in like Zingara or something, and there's like a bandit hideout with like a pool of lava in the middle, and it's like so stupid that I loved every second of it. But
listen, I read those I was reading them off the stands during that time period. I was a teenager. I loved it. I couldn't wait for the next one to come out. I mean, so it's I like Jesse Church. Tim's. Love him. I love Tim. He's someone we I think we really became friends. I've stayed with him. My wife and kids, we used to do a road trip up to Maine every year, and we'd stop off and stay with Tim. And
what has he done? I'm not familiar.
Tim Truman. He did so he wrote he was the second main wrier after Kurt Busiek
for the dark stuff,
for the Dark Horse run, and especially his run with Tomas Giorello was some just top notch.
Some of my favorites.
Tim's a real fan. He's a true fan. He's probably best outside of Conan. He's probably best known as as a co-creator of Grimjack back in the 80s for First Comics, and he did the really great Jonah Hex miniseries for DC with the Joe Lansdale wrote. Because he's an artist and a writer. He's really better known as an artist. Got to start doing D&D stuff back in the early 80s, actually. His run with Joe Lansdale on Jonah Hex is full of Howard stuff. Basically takes Worms of the Earth and puts it in the Old West. In that, and he was a guest of honor at Howard Days one year. Tim was great guy. He's been working on a Scout was one of his other series that he did, independent titles back in the 80s, and he's been working on a major Scout project over the last couple of years. I've been talking with him because I've been trying to Tim, man, why don't you come back? Just do a Seven Sword story or something, man. The fans would love that. Awesome. So we'll see. Maybe. I would love to see him do that.
Let's throw that question back at Dan. Who would you like to see?
I mean, Patch Zerker has been incredible.
Patch has been so good.
He's funny, and his writing is really it's paced so well. And he can draw. I get the sense that Heroic Signatures is not going to do a consistent artist run the same way, because we've had Rob and Doug and a couple other people in there. I think Liam Sharp, if just give that man so much money, give him all the time in the world, and I think that would be incredible. And I was floored after I read Tattered Wings, and I went on Reddit and Twitter, and there were people who didn't like it because it's so good. And that dude's artistic. Every panel is a trip, and I don't know. I love that dude's work, and maybe Jason Aaron too. I did a video about the first 2 years of Savage Sword, and I think The Ensorcelled, it probably gets my vote for best Conan story of the 2020s so far. So I don't know, one of those guys.
I'll tell you, I'll let you know a little secret to bring us full circle. The reason Liam is now involved in Conan is because of Tim Truman.
Oh, nice.
With me as a middleman.
Really?
So
I'm gonna you $50 right now.
I know, right? I love Liam. Liam is such a good guy too. I love him so much. It was I was doing the Modiphius game at the time, consulting on that, and I kind of ended up accidentally becoming the art director, mostly because the guys that were doing it, they really didn't know the Conan scene much, and they're like, "Do you know any Conan artists? Could you just go get us some Conan artists to do the covers?" And I'm like, maybe, I guess, right? And so I was involved, got Tim to do some stuff, and he's like, who you need to get, huge Conan fan, is Liam Sharp. And I was at Comic-Con that year doing a panel. I think it was the 50th anniversary Frazetta panel or something, and Tim's like, you got to go talk to Liam Sharp. And I really wasn't familiar with his work at the time, and I went and talked to him, and we started hanging out and talking. Like, would you be interested in doing something for Modif, for the game, for the Conan? He's like, oh, yes, of course I would. The British, and he's like, and I'm like, yeah. Tim Truman said, oh Tim, right? Because he's just a big giant. Huge. If you ever seen him, he's ripped, but he's just an absolute teddy bear. And he did that amazing painting of Black Colossus, that was just blew my mind. I got to work with so many incredible artists with that game, like Brom and Sanhuli and everybody, right? But Liam Sharp, who I was not familiar with at the time, he just got the Wonder Woman gig right after that, and he does this amazing painting, just phenomenal, based on my notes or whatever. That's the one. Yeah. And so it's great that we finally, once Titan got going, I pitched it. I was like, you need to reach out to is Liam Sharp. Did you see, and they'd already like, oh yeah, we're already talking to him. Like, oh, hell yeah. You need to get him to do a painting. Don't, yes, it's black and white. It's gorgeous. It's incredible. The detail, all of that, but get him to do a painting too. Get him to do a cover. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so we're advocating for Liam, for Patch, and
I have one
Jim.
more actually.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Gary Dugan or Jerry Dugan. It's probably Jerry Dugan, who did Savage Avengers when Conan was still at Marvel.
Yeah.
I read all of those. I got the 2 big fat trades like halfway to an Omni. So good. He gets Conan. He's funny. He gets like the scope and the kind of eldritchness of it. So that I think that guy would do great too.
Yeah. And there's probably so many people we've never heard of. That would be great. And maybe even Shanks could pull something off.
I don't dare write a Conan story. You notice that I've stuck to like secondary Howard characters, so there's less pressure, you know.
Yeah, there's not as much pressure writing Conrad and Kierwin.
Right.
Awesome.
And look, I'm an archaeologist, so doing like occult archaeology stories. There you go. It's not too much of a stretch. That was the idea, right?
I want to see you do some Elborak.
Yeah.
I would like to do some Elborak.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yes.
Hey, Jeff, who is your favorite Howard character? Or you got a top 3 or top 5?
That's an interesting question, because it's not something you often get asked. What's your favorite stories? You don't often get asked favorite characters. Solomon Kane's up there for sure. I mean, obviously I did Conan. That's, we all
cosplayed Solomon Kane, right?
I cosplayed Solomon Kane. Right. It was just Halloween, but yes, I did that a couple years ago. I don't know what I was thinking. I've got this. The cat-headed staff is over here in the corner, actually, left over from that costume. Solomon Kane is such an interesting character who has something of an arc that a lot of people don't pick up on, where he's slowly losing his, struggling with the Judeo-Christian worldview that defines what he thinks his cosmology is, but he keeps all the things that he keeps encountering, he has to struggle with it. And he's, starting to realize maybe the world is bigger than what he thinks, or the universe is greater than that, as he's encountering the cosmic horror type things. So that makes him a really interesting character. Solomon Kane's certainly up there. I do, obviously I like Conan. Kull is also interesting as the introspective barbarian. Howard himself was going through a more introspective period in his life at that point, I think. And you see that somewhat in the Kull stories. I think Sailor Steve Costigan, of course, it's very different, right? But a lot of fun. I mean, that's, those stories, I just love them. The humorous boxing stories. Yeah, there's, I guess those are the obvious ones. But they're the obvious ones because they are some of his better ones, right? They are the ones that have stood the test of time,
Yeah, the Steve Costigan stories are great. I mean, I'm the sort of reader that I like to find an author, and I like to read everything they've ever written. It's kind of my jam. So when you with the Costigan stories, you get a lot of them.
You do. I will say the character that I'm now working on another story for, I don't want to give it away yet, is also one of my favorite characters, and very, like I said, overlooked. But we're gonna have some fun with it. We'll see.
Okay. Cool.
There was a question that was not posted here. It was from 2 + 2 is 5. He says, I got a question. Which REH character would win in an all-out fight? My money is on Conan and Esau Karen being the last 2 standing.
Esau Karen. Good call. Yeah.
He's not a character I'm familiar with.
He's from Almuric.
Okay.
That Howard's one real attempt at doing Sword and Planet.
To read it.
And yeah, he's a badass. He's tough. He kills a man, with one blow. That's how he ends up in the predicament. But yeah, it's tough to get past Conan, right? I mean,
yeah. Does Elborak get guns in this fight? Or
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Is this hand to hand? Or
is it going to be fair?
Yeah, that'd be. We need like a DCKO event, but
right,
REHKO.
There you go.
That'd be good. Stygian Dogs, same question for you. You got a top 3 or anything?
Of who would win?
Howard characters.
Howard characters.
Just ones you like.
I mean, obviously Conan. I'm quite enamored with Elborak and Steve Costigan. I love the boxing stories right now. I haven't gotten into Dennis Dorgan stuff, even though I'm sure it's quite like Steve Costigan. I
It's
got
Steve
a nice
Costigan
little
with
one.
the,
It
with the
is, yeah,
serial number filed off. That's all.
exactly. Different dog, different
Yep.
initials. Yeah, I love the Costigan stuff. Cull has grown on me, and I hope people don't dislike me for saying that.
Yeah.
It took reading the Shadow Kingdom a few times for me to really love it, and I do love it now. What is it? Twos and Two is such a great story. I love that one more, I think, than Shadow Kingdom. But there's so much that is relevant to Shadow Kingdom that it feels timeless. So I mean, I do love Cull, but right now I don't think he's in my top 3 favorites.
I'm with you there. I like the Cull stories, but I think I like them because of the castle and the intrigue and a lot of stuff. I don't know if I like Cull himself. I think he's toward the bottom of my favorites list.
Yeah, he's just so very introspective. I do love the Cull Rule relationship. I love the exploration of brotherhood, that sort of thing, especially for non-siblings. So I think that's fun to jump into there. It's funny, right, where people worry about with Conan stories, situations where Conan's going to be rescued, but we see in the Cull stories that Cull is rescued very often by Brule, and I find that fascinating.
Right.
And it doesn't diminish Cull, and it doesn't. So it's a neat dynamic there. John just opined. He said Breckenridge.
John may
Elkins.
not be wrong.
I've started reading Breckenridge, and you should check out the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press. They just have the new issues of the Breckenridge Elkins stuff. I've read a few Breck stories. They're a ton of fun. Different yet again from Costigan. So I haven't read enough, but I do know John loves those.
John may not be wrong about that too. I've got one of my videos. I've got it's one of my older ones on my channel is looking at Breckenridge Elkins and rough and tumble fighting, which was a style of frontier fighting that was brutal. It involved eye gouging and biting, but it was actually something like a fighting system, believe it or not. And you see that through all the stories, like Breck fights in this rough and tumble style. The video is called Gouged Eyes and Chawed Ears. And it's, you read those stories. It's, I describe it as, it's tall tale style, but with Howard's like over the top violence. It's like, Pecos Bill meets Kill Bill, actually Breck might beat them all.
And the tall tale element, that's so American,
right?
Which is
very much so.
Yeah, wonderful.
And very frontier as well. It's a frontier tradition.
So Mechasaurus, as far as more obscure characters, I really wanted more of Helen Tavro from Island of the Pirates June. Not familiar. It wasn't the best story, but the character would have been fun to see more of.
Yes, agreed.
I'm not familiar with Helen Tavro.
Never even heard of this.
Well, you're gonna have to get the Robert E. Howard Foundation edition of Pirate Stories and check it out.
Well, this is lovely. I got a super chat. And the question is, why is Cimmerian pronounced with an S? And this, people bring this up a lot, instead of a K, like its root, a Kimmeroy. It's a better alliterative matching with Conan using a K. Did REH say, and I'm going to assume that the rest of the comment is Cimmerian. And as far as we know, Howard did pronounce it with the soft C, and
that's correct.
Cimmerian. Why?
Do you know the answer, Jeff?
I do. Yeah. This is from my classics background.
Okay.
So you often get this. What's the right way to pronounce it? It's it depends on what your native language is. If you're German, it would be Kimmeroy. If you speak English, it's or Cimmerian. If you speak English, it's Cimmerian. And it does come. It's originally a Greek name, so it is a kappa, right? But in English, we often change that hard C sound from from a kappa or the hard C in Latin. Sumerian, that's really the Latin version of the original Greek with the K. In English, we often change that to a soft C. It's the reason we say Cicero instead of Cicero. It's the reason we say Caesar instead of Kaiser. But in German, they do say Kaiser, right? So, the answer, which one is right, it depends on what your language is that you speak today. It's just an English convention for how we have traditionally pronounced that letter, that consonant. The Greek kappa that becomes the hard C in Latin. We pronounce it as a soft C in English. So that's why. So Sumerian is right in English. Other languages, a number of other languages, the hard K sound would be more appropriate.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the super chat. That's super cool. It is interesting, though. This is a point of contention among many people. I've seen this.
And the answer is yes. They're both right in their way.
I mean, I guess the default is that's how Howard pronounced it. So
yeah,
whether you like it or not.
In English, yes, that would be the way to pronounce it. But in other languages, it would be a hard K.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple of comments about Sumerian versus Cimmerian, and some people give me guff. I always say Conan, like Conan, rather than Conan, and that always seemed like an invented pronunciation. And then I think in Will Oliver's book, Howard said Conan as well.
Yep, he said Conan, just like Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, that's
Conan really comes more from the movie.
I have never, I don't think there's any real human beings out there named Conan. Right?
Yes, that's right.
Sometimes
and
bring that up.
In the same way, it's also Tarzan and not Tarzan.
Oh, is it really Tarzan?
It's Tarzan.
See, but I don't like that. I don't think I could say Tarzan. Well, I guess I could.
Tarzan.
That sounds weird to me.
It sounds weird. But every time I say Conan now, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Conan. Don't say Conan, and it slips out all the time, right? But even though it's Conan, so we're all guilty of it.
The first time I saw the play A Raisin in the Sun, one of the characters says Tarzan, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I was like, what is she talking? Oh, she means Tarzan. That was the only person I'd ever heard say Tarzan for a really long time.
That's funny.
John Carter's actually pronounced John Carter.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
There you go. John says that Robert E. Howard actually asked Edgar Rice Burroughs how to pronounce Tarzan. And you'll note that I said Tarzan, not Tarzan.
I don't like that. I had more questions though.
Yeah,
because I don't know. I never get to talk to people about this kind of thing.
Right.
This is a question for both of you. What is the last book or story that you read that really lit your fire?
This is an easy one for me. It is very timely, and I hope it's not a pedestrian answer. But honestly, when I read Project Hail Mary, and I mean it's not sword and sorcery, and it's not fantasy, but as far as just a fun science fiction novel, I read it, over an evening and a day. It was beautiful weather as well. It was summer in Canada, and I was outside on the patio, and I had a couple pints, and it is just the best buddy story. I was just so tickled by that novel, and it's some of the most fun I've had in a long time. And I saw the movie the other night. I saw it with my family. It was fantastic. Everybody loved it. So if you haven't seen Project Hail Mary, I'm going to recommend everybody go see the movie. I don't know if everybody else feels the same way about the novel, but I had so much fun with that. And it's one of the better reads in the last 4 years for me.
Nice. I've just started it actually, because I wanted to read it before the film, and I have not finished it. Now the movie's already out.
And the thing is, when I read it, I think everybody knew at the time that you don't give anything away. You don't talk about it. And the movie, I feel, revealed too much, but it doesn't diminish the movie in any way.
Interesting.
But I don't have you read it, Dan?
No, I don't read a lot of like modern fiction. I'm too stacked up with like reading stuff from 20 years before I was born. You know?
Yeah, I tend to be the same. Like, but as far as recent book, it's a great book. It's just very sciencey at times, and I love it. And just the surprise and the movie's fantastic. So that's my answer. Jeff.
God, I have not read fiction in so long. I've been doing so much research the last year, even. Yeah, let me think about that. What was the last thing that really blew me away? That I thought was just absolutely phenomenal, and it's old now. But I actually didn't read it until a few years ago. Is The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay.
Oh yeah.
And it took me a while to get to that, and I love it. I love it so much. That book is so good. And it's older now, I guess. God, it may be like, is it 20? Is it 20 years old now? How did that? No,
I would say easily now.
Oh God, is it really?
It's Wonder
so
Boys.
good.
Is that his other one of his others too? Wonder Boys? Is that?
That's more recent, I think. And that one's more pulpy too. I'll tell you, he's a big Robert E. Howard fan, and he actually stopped by the
Michael Shedman, right?
Yes, he actually stopped by the house at one point a couple of years ago and was working on some kind of Robert E. Howard project. And it's funny because Arlene, those of you that may be familiar, that have been to Howard Days or at least familiar with Project Pride, Arlene Stevenson is the president of Project Pride, and just the sweetest little old lady. And she emailed us on the those of us on the foundation board at one point, and she's like, "Do you boys know a Michael Chabon?" We're like, Michael Chabon? Wait, really? She's like, "Yeah, he was very nice. He came by the house. He's a writer or something." He's a Pulitzer Prize winning writer. Yes. Like, oh my God, right? Like, apparently he had an event in Dallas or something and took the time to go drive over to Cross Plains.
Oh, that's awesome.
To visit the house.
I have a collection of his essays. What's it? It's I'm trying to remember what it's called. Maps something, but it's very much a series of essays on a fantastical place. Oh, what's it called? But I'm going to check that out because he has an essay somewhere on either Hyboria or Conan. I wonder if it's in that book. I'll have to check that out.
He was supposedly working on some Howard-related project, but we've never heard anything about it, so I don't know what happened or what it even was.
Yeah, I've read something. Yeah, no, he's great. What about you, Dan?
Well, I'm reading Carl Edgar Wagner's Kane stuff right now. Insanely good. Like, I have created like a full sub-site on my Conan Chronology site, and I'm working on a Kane Chronology right now because it's philosophical and it's really dark, but Wagner is so good at like Kane in some of the stories is unambiguously completely evil, and yet at the same time Wagner's writing style like dares you to like empathize with him, and it's incredible. And I spent way too much money. I spent almost $200 on Midnight Sun, and then I just spent $70 on Bloodstone to get that too, because these things are
so pricey,
and it's worth every penny so far.
Okay.
Like, if you haven't read Kane, like, Wagner is insane, dude. He's so good.
Okay, so look up. Mechasaurus cited the Iliad as a great read. He mentions the Emily Wilson translation. I'd heard some controversy over that, but I mean, there's a lot of grumpy people everywhere. So
I wonder if Mechasaurus is excited for the Christopher Nolan movie or not.
Oh.
I hear that one's controversial. I don't know much about the Iliad. So.
This is the Centipede Press version of all of Kane's works. It's like a 5-volume box set that they did a few years ago. These gorgeous, gorgeous volumes. And these are they're expensive when they came out, but at least reasonably affordable. I think they're just like insanely, and I don't even know if you can get these anymore, but beautiful volumes. I will say this: you should, when you go to Howard Days, you should ask Rusty Burke to tell you some Wagner stories.
Oh, did he know him?
Oh yeah, like from the old days, from the cons, they were all like, it was all part of the same scene back in the day. You know, everybody used to hang out and drink and stuff, and you know.
Sounds like Wagner drank more than anybody else. I just watched the last
documentary about him, so it's sad. I mean, you know, he basically drank himself to death. You know,
he looks and talks and dresses like all my friends, though, like a heavy metal guy with like Motorhead fandom and stuff.
Right. But yeah, you can get some real behind the scenes Wagner stories. I imagine. Yeah.
I need it. Okay.
Sun and Steel reads, modern fiction can be a real slog. I guess the thing is, I'm always so behind the times, so I don't even know what modern fiction is anymore. You know, there's just options for everybody.
I feel like there's always some good stuff coming out, but I'm a pretentious former English major, so I like the really like pretentious, like, you know, New York Times bestseller list stuff. Right. I don't know. There's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The most modern anybody I've read, I think, is Paul Auster. I think that's as modern as I get.
Looking at my bookshelf, and nothing jumps out at me as a great example of awesome modern fiction. But I don't know.
Well, there you go. It's a real slog. 2 + 2 is 5. Tarzan sounds like an accountant's last name. Nice to meet you, Phil Tarzan. You're not wrong, brother.
Yep. It is what it is. That's how Burroughs pronounced it. So.
I'm wondering if the neighborhood in LA should be Tarzan.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the truest statement, Mechazora's. 100%. Read what you want. Who cares? Yep. Yeah, absolutely. As long as you're reading. I mean, I tell my kids that.
Right? God, I will sometimes. I have like I teach 7th and 8th graders, and I just want them to read, and it doesn't matter what it is. And sometimes in class, they'll be like reading a Stephen King book, and they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What is it?" And they're like afraid they're gonna get in trouble, and I'm like, "Dude, you didn't write it. Like, I'm just excited. You're excited about reading."
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to make sure. I'm assuming Rob's going to be there this year, but talk to Rob Reed. He's a school teacher. You'll enjoy the conversations there for sure.
Great.
Yeah. Huh. And Lex says, I started thinking about modern writers I like, and then I'm like, oh, that book is 20 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Colson Whitehead is really good. I read some of his stuff recently. But I don't know. I guess I'm reading stuff that's 100 years old most of the time.
Yeah.
Jim, what's the comic book scene like up in Toronto? I've never been to Canada.
Comic book scene. I mean,
you got good
comic books, and just, I mean, I grieve over the loss of used bookstores. Toronto used to have a lot of great used bookstores. Less so. Used to have a lot of great comic shops. Less so. So it exists, but it's not like it used to be. So I think it's like everywhere else, where it's slowly disappearing. You know, most of what's published, I'm not interested in either. So, I mean, I love comics, but I'm a Conan comic fan right now. That's what drives me. And then anything adjacent to Conan or anything that piques my curiosity. But I'm only flipping through, old bins now, and finding a store in Toronto that has, good bins just to flip through is harder and harder. And there's a prominent store downtown. I'm not going to name it. And I don't really like going there. And it's one of the bigger ones. But they have a good selection. But it's just harder and harder to find a place that feels like home and is comfortable. I mean, there's a lot of comic creators. Just you go to Fan Expo, and there's so many. Chip Zdarsky, the guys, oh my gosh, Nick Marinkovich, and
I love his work.
Fred Kennedy. I love Nick's work. It's great stuff in Savage Sword. And I know that Jim wants to see him do more.
Yeah.
Him and Fred Kennedy, they have their oh my gosh, everything's eluding me. Is that Dead Romans? Is that their book? I know they're working on a second volume, but so there's so much Canadian talent, so much Canadian comic
talent. Guys are Canadian?
Yeah.
I didn't know Zdarsky was.
Yeah, he lives. He's. I mean, him and Jim are quite good friends. They all live downtown. Yeah. So I mean, there's that kind of scene. But I'm old now too, right? So I'm not as hip.
Welcome to the
jive.
club.
Yeah. So I don't see it as much. I love it. I'll give a shout out to my store, Thunderstruck Books. Dobie over there's great. She always has everything ready for me on a Wednesday when I walk in. So I love that service. So she's fantastic. But the scene is there, but it's not what it used to be. Same as used bookstores. Oh my God. I could make a weekend, 10, 15 years ago, just wandering from used bookstore to used bookstore and finding all the treasures. And now you're hard pressed to find, really good stuff.
That sucks.
Yeah, there's a couple places. Again, I'll just drop a couple names. Sellers in Newell has a great kind of pulp section, and they often have a lot of Howard stuff available downtown. Balfour Books is a great shop. Doug Miller Books is a great place, but they're just few and far between. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What's you're in Denver? What's Colorado like?
I mean, we have Mile High Comics, which everybody loves to visit, and it's great to visit, but not my favorite shop. I mean, everything's kind of overpriced there because they have the name recognition. I go to Time Warp Comics in Boulder. I'm kind of halfway between Denver and Boulder-ish. Okay. And Time Warp is great. That same service, I walk in and they go, "Hey, Dan, here's your pull slot." And that's excellent. They're wonderful people. We have one really good bookstore that if either of you ever passing through Denver, there's a place called the Auditorium. And it's like an oddities shop and a used bookstore.
Oh, that's cool.
They have this shelf in the back that's probably 5 shelves about this wide. And it's just pulp and Howard and Burroughs and everybody. Cool. And every time I go there, I spend more than I want. I'm always like, okay, I can buy 3 books. And I always end up spending more than I want. But I'd recommend any fan coming through town to check that spot out.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah. Jeff, you're in Atlanta?
No, I'm in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So pretty small, one of those little small capital city kind of places.
I have a conspiracy that Tallahassee doesn't exist because whenever I would drive by on the highway, you don't see any building.
We've got one good store here, Fallout Comics. We used to have a couple of great shops. They've all kind of closed down over the years. We really only have one shop now. They've got a great selection. They've got my pull pile always waiting for me.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I may do something for Free Comic Book Day this year, maybe with them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So that'll be fun.
Man, we ran through all the questions I had.
Well, and we're approaching the 2-hour mark. That's awesome. I mean, I'm just going to thank everybody that's tuned in. I've been watching the number of viewers. It's pretty good for my channel. So thanks to everybody for your questions. Thanks for that super chat. That's fun. Nice. Yeah, I mean, Howard Days is going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. There was no way I wasn't going to come this year.
Yeah, you're a regular now, man. You can't escape. That's what happens. Be warned, Dan. This is what happens to you.
As I said to you,
you guys want to know a story about last year?
Okay.
I was thinking about going, and Jeff, you were like,
"Yeah,
hey, do you want to do a Glen Lord Symposium thing?" And I went, "Of course I do. Yes, yes, yes." And I looked at my calendar, and my cousin was getting married the Saturday of Howard Days. And I waffled. I was like, does she actually care if I'm there? Would my family never speak to me again? And I thought really hard about skipping that wedding. And then I didn't. I was like, I can't. And so I'm sitting there at the reception, kind of looking at my phone man, everybody's having fun in Texas.
It's all right, man. I'll save you a spot for next year. It's good. And
I was hoping and praying you'd hit me up again.
Of course.
No, it's a blast. It's something entirely different.
It really is.
Yeah, it feels like going home.
I've made lifelong friends here. Truly. And it's a cool thing, and that's what's great about it every year. It really is. That's what makes it like a family reunion. Yeah, it's very cool. And when you're a newbie and you show up for the first time, even then it's almost like you're not a newbie, because you know that you're here for this specific thing, that we've all grown up together and had similar experiences around this, this writer and all of the media and things that go with that. So you instantly have all of this in common. And so even though you may be coming to the family reunion for the first time. Oh, well, that's just cousin so-and-so, we never, whatever. We haven't met him yet, but he's one of us. Come on in. It really is like that, and
that's delightful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You're going to have a great time. So that's going to be nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet everybody. I feel like I have these parasocial relationships. Like
it's weird.
Like, I watch your guys' videos, or I email Jeff. I read your essays every month in like the comic books that, and I feel like I kind of know you, but like I've known you for an hour and 55 minutes now. So.
Yeah, no,
this is how it starts, though, right?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good year. So everybody, I say that everybody should come to Howard Days, but what if it's like Woodstock and then we're just stuck?
Yeah.
We'll be overwhelmed.
The town infrastructure can't handle much more than what they get right now. I feel like,
Exactly.
Not a single hotel in the entire place, right?
No, there used to be a hotel there, the 36 West, and it was infamous.
Oh.
It was, oh boy,
hourly rates.
It was a motel, old school, not a hotel, an old school motel, right? And if you're lucky, they might have scrubbed the chalk outline off the carpet before you get your room. It was, not good. That place was so nasty, but it was literally right next to the pavilion. So you could just, you get drunk, you stumble back to your room or somebody's room, who knows? Like it was just, but it finally got leveled, which is sad to put all those cockroaches out on the street. But I remember my ex-wife, she came to Howard Days with us, early on, and we stayed at the 36. She stayed there one night, and she's like, "Nope, we're going to Brownwood. You're getting me a real hotel. I'm not doing it. Nope." It was pretty nasty. So yeah, it's a challenge. There's Airbnb but you pretty much have to get a hotel 20, 30 minutes away.
Yeah, the place we've recommended is probably the closest.
That's where I got a room there. So
good. There's going to be a lot of folks together.
Yeah, it'll be fun because there'll be a lot of us there.
We should probably reach out to that place and see if they'll give us like a group discount rate at some point.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't be a bad thing, but
yeah, it's fairly discounted.
Yeah, it's yeah. Don't worry, you'll get your money's worth.
That's good.
It's all part of the experience, all part of the adventure.
Yeah.
John saying, Jeff, did you talk with the Woody's folks about using their parking lot?
I have not. We should reach out to them. Yep, that's on my long to-do list, John. I'll get there, damn it.
Keep giving him more things to do. We'll make sure he takes care of it. Yeah, it's Bates Motel.
You're not wrong. And hey, that's Robert Bloch, right? That's a couple degrees of separation there.
There you go.
Robert Bloch was not a fan of Conan, by the way. He hated Conan. He wrote a scathing letter to Weird Tales. He called what was it? Conan the Cluck. He called them.
Is that like an old school insult or something?
Apparently, he was only like 17 at the time. And he was just breaking in, but
weird.
Yeah.
Check it. Well, I think, gentlemen, we can call it. We'll end the stream and we'll say our goodbyes off stream. Again, thanks everybody. Thanks to everybody that watched. And until next time, take it easy, you Stygian Dogs.
Thanks everybody.